Did you know that for thousands of years, women were the primary healers in their communities? They assisted with childbirth, treated illnesses, and passed down vital medical knowledge through generations. Archaeological evidence shows female healers buried with medicinal tools, and ancient records name women physicians and midwives. Yet, today their stories are largely forgotten or overlooked. How did this happen? And what does it mean for women's health today? In this episode, we'll explore the fascinating and often erased history of women as healers, and why understanding this past is crucial for the future of healthcare. Women as early healers. In prehistoric and ancient societies, women's healing skills were essential for the survival of their communities. Archaeological findings, like ancient female burials with medicinal herbs and tools, show their respected role in health and medicine. For example, in ancient Egypt, a woman named Pesachet, who lived around 2400 BCE, was honored with the title Lady Overseer of Female Physicians, showing women's formal recognition as medical experts. Across the world, from indigenous tribes in North America to ancient India and China, women served as shamans, herbalists, and midwives, blending spiritual guidance with practical care. Their knowledge in herbal medicine, midwifery, and surgery was passed down, often from mother to daughter, building the foundation of early medicine. However, as societies became more institutionalized, male-dominated institutions, particularly in ancient Greece, began favoring written, theoretical approaches over women's experiential oral traditions. This systematic exclusion explains why figures like Hippocrates became celebrated as the father of medicine, while the countless women healers whose knowledge actually formed medicine's foundation were erased from history, challenging us to reconsider who truly built early medical practice. The Middle Ages, suppression of women's medical roles. During the Middle Ages, women's roles as healers and midwives came under increasing restriction. Formal medical institutions like universities and guilds emerged, but they were almost exclusively male, barring women from formal education and professional recognition. In many parts of Europe, laws and church edicts prohibited women from practicing medicine. Women healers who persisted were often accused of witchcraft during a wave of fear and persecution spanning from the 15th to the 18th centuries. For example, the Council of Paris in 1322 forbade women from performing medical procedures. This suppression reflected broader social, religious, and political struggles, where the church and ruling classes viewed women's healing knowledge as a threat to their authority. Consequently, much of the medical knowledge women preserved for centuries was lost or hidden, creating lasting gaps in healthcare.
The Renaissance and Scientific Revolution. The Renaissance and Scientific Revolution saw remarkable advances in medical science, fueled by detailed anatomical studies and new technologies. Figures like Leonardo da Vinci produced precise anatomical drawings that revolutionized our understanding of human anatomy. But these groundbreaking studies focused almost entirely on male bodies. Female cadavers were strictly taboo for dissection, considered culturally and religiously inappropriate to study, creating a glaring blind spot in medical knowledge that would persist for centuries. This cultural restriction meant that even as medicine advanced rapidly in other areas, women's anatomy remained a mystery to the very scientists claiming to understand the human body. Medical schools and universities opened their doors exclusively to men, excluding women from formal training and scientific inquiry, further deepening the male default bias in medicine. Women like Dorothea Erxleben fought enormous barriers to gain medical degrees, yet their successes were rare exceptions in a persistently male-dominated field. The combination of excluding women's bodies from study and excluding women from medical education created a devastating double erasure. Female health issues remain misunderstood, while women's own healing knowledge was dismissed, setting medical practice on a course that would ignore and misrepresent women's bodies for generations to come.
The lasting impact of erasure. The sidelining of women's medical knowledge has had profound and lasting consequences. Because medicine was built around men's bodies, many women's health problems were misunderstood or dismissed. Symptoms women experienced were sometimes labeled psychological or all in their head. Conditions such as heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and chronic pain were under-researched in women, causing frequent misdiagnoses and inadequate care. Moreover, research often ignored biological sex differences until the late 20th century, and racial and gender biases exacerbated disparities. These gaps have led to longer diagnostic times and less effective treatments for women, gaps that persist today. Understanding this history explains why women's health has lagged and why transformation is essential.
Why this history matters today. Here's a fact that will blow your mind. Women's bodies were systematically excluded from medical research until 1993. That's only 30 years ago. Stop and think about that for a moment. Your smartphone is older than women's inclusion in medical research. The doctors treating women today, many of them were trained before women's bodies were even considered worth studying. The 1993 U.S. National Institutes of Health Revitalization Act was supposedly a breakthrough, mandating the inclusion of women in federally funded clinical research for the first time. But here's what's even more shocking. Recent reports from medical doctors reveal they spent approximately half a day, on women's health during their entire medical education. Half a day to understand the bodies, hormones, and health needs of half the human population. This isn't ancient history we're talking about. This is your mother's generation. Your generation. The medical system treating women today was literally built on the assumption that male bodies could represent all of humanity, and we're only just beginning to question that. Even now, women remain underrepresented in medical research, textbooks, and treatment protocols. The legacy of women healers who understood women's bodies for millennia was erased, only to be discovered by modern medicine 3 decades ago. This history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding why women's healthcare is still catching up today. Women's contributions outside formal medicine. Even though women were often excluded from formal medical schools and hospitals, they continued to contribute to health and healing in many important ways. Cared for the sick at home, and passed down valuable knowledge through generations. Midwives, in particular, played a crucial role in childbirth, often saving lives when doctors were not available or not trusted. In many communities, women's healing practices blended science, tradition, and spirituality, an approach sometimes dismissed by the male-dominated medical establishment, but critical for everyday health. Recognizing these contributions helps us appreciate the full scope of women's impact on medicine, beyond what's documented in textbooks. Early movements to reclaim women's health. By the 19th and early 20th centuries, women began organizing to reclaim their place in medicine and healthcare. Women's medical colleges were founded, creating paths for female doctors and nurses who fought for recognition and equal opportunities. Simultaneously, early feminist movements started demanding better healthcare for women, including more research focused on women's bodies and diseases. These efforts laid the groundwork for future advances, even though progress was slow and often met with resistance. Understanding these early movements reveals that the fight for women's health equality has deep roots, a long journey that continues today. But this story is far from over. The inclusion of women's anatomy in medical research has been a long and ongoing struggle. In the next episode, we will delve deeper into how medicine's fixation on the male body as the standard continues to impact women's healthcare today, and what it will take to change that. If you found this episode eye-opening, please share it with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe.